Did you know that 85% of parents in the United States admit to yelling at their children at least once a month? But here's the kicker. Research from the American Academy of Pediatrics shows that yelling is actually as harmful as physical punishment when it comes to a child's long-term emotional development. If you are stuck in a cycle of screaming, followed by guilt, and then more screaming because the behavior didn't actually change, this podcast is going to be your lifeline. Today, we aren't just talking about being nice. We are talking about a neurological shift in how you lead your family. We are diving into 5 practical, evidence-based parenting tips that will help you guide behavior with calm, consistency, and deep respect, effectively turning your home from a battlefield into a sanctuary. Most of us parent the way we were parented. We grew up in an era where "because I said so" was the law of the land in cities from New York to Los Angeles. We were taught that discipline means punishment, that if a child does something wrong, they must suffer a consequence to learn their lesson. But here's the problem. When we rely on fear and shame, we aren't teaching our children how to make good choices. We are simply teaching them how to avoid getting caught. We think we are toughening them up for the real world, but in reality, we are often just triggering their fight or flight response. When a child's brain is flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone, they literally cannot learn. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic and decision-making, shuts down. So, while you're yelling about the messy room in your Chicago suburban home, your child's brain has checked out. They aren't listening, they are surviving. But what if I told you the most successful parents, the ones raising confident, cooperative, and emotionally intelligent kids, aren't using power over their children? They are using power with them. They understand a secret that many of us missed. Discipline comes from the Latin word discipulus, which means to teach. It's not about retribution, it's about instruction. A 2021 study from Stanford University followed families who switched from punitive discipline to positive discipline models. The results were staggering. These children showed a 40% increase in self-regulation skills and significantly higher academic performance. Why? Because their brains felt safe enough to grow. Let's break this down into our first major tip: setting clear, proactive boundaries. Think of boundaries like the guardrails on the Golden Gate Bridge. They aren't there to stop you from driving. They are there to keep you safe so you can cross the bridge with confidence. In parenting, boundaries must be communicated before the crisis happens. For example, imagine a family in Seattle getting ready for school. Instead of yelling, "Hurry up!" every 5 minutes, the proactive parent sets a boundary the night before. The rule is, shoes are on by 7:45 a.m. If shoes aren't on, we won't have time for your favorite morning radio show in the car. It's clear, it's calm, and it puts the responsibility on the child. Tip number 2 is positive reinforcement via the 4-to-1 ratio. This is a technique used by top behavioral psychologists in Boston and across the globe. For every 1 correction or no you give your child, you need to provide 4 pieces of positive feedback. We often ignore our kids when they are playing quietly and only engage when they start hitting their sibling. This teaches them that negative behavior is the fastest way to get your attention. Try catching them being good. Say something like, "I noticed how you shared your blocks with your sister without me asking. That was very kind." This builds a bank account of connection that makes them want to listen when you eventually have to set a hard limit. Our third tip focuses on natural and logical consequences. Punishment is arbitrary, like taking away a video game because a child didn't finish their broccoli. There's no logical link there. Discipline, however, uses consequences that make sense. If a child in a Miami park throws sand, the logical consequence is that they have to leave the sandbox. You're having a hard time keeping the sand down, so we're going to take a break from the sandbox for 10 minutes. It's not a gotcha moment. It's a direct result of their actions. This teaches them that their choices have a direct impact on their environment. Tip 4 is all about communication and active listening. We often forget that children are small humans with big emotions. When your toddler has a meltdown in the middle of a Target in Dallas because you won't buy the blue truck, the instinct is to say, "Stop crying, it's just a toy." But to that child, it's the most important thing in the world. Instead, try validating the emotion while holding the boundary. I can see you're really sad because you want that truck. It's hard when we can't get everything we want. But the answer is still no for today. When a child feels heard, their nervous system begins to settle. You aren't giving in. You are simply acknowledging their reality. Finally, tip 5. Consistency is king. This is where many parents in the fast-paced life of Los Angeles or Atlanta struggle. We are tired, we are overworked, and sometimes it's just easier to let the behavior slide. But inconsistency is the enemy of discipline. If no means maybe after 10 minutes of whining, you have just taught your child that persistence pays off. To raise a cooperative child, your yes must be yes, and your no must be no. It creates a predictable world for them, which reduces anxiety and power struggles. To make this easier to remember, I've developed the G.U.I.D.E framework. G stands for grounded. You must regulate your own emotions before you can help your child regulate theirs. U is for understanding, knowing what is age appropriate. You can't expect a 2-year-old to have the impulse control of a 10-year-old. I is for informed, knowing your child's triggers like hunger or exhaustion. D is for decisive, being firm but fair with your limits. And E is for empathetic, always leading with love. This framework was originally used in high-stress leadership training, but it's perfect for the high-stakes environment of parenting. Let me tell you a story about Sarah, a mom I worked with in Chicago. Sarah was exhausted. Her 5-year-old, Leo, would scream every time it was time to turn off the iPad. Sarah would yell, Leo would cry, and eventually she'd snatch the iPad away. It was a daily nightmare. We implemented the G.U.I.D.E framework. First, Sarah worked on being grounded. When it was time for the iPad to go away, she took 3 deep breaths first. Then she used understanding. She realized 5-year-olds hate abrupt transitions. She started giving Leo a 5-minute warning and a 2-minute warning. When the time was up, she was decisive. She didn't ask, "Can you turn it off now?" She stated, "The time is up, Leo. You can turn it off, or I can help you turn it off." When he started to pout, she was empathetic. "I know, it's so fun to play that game. It's hard to stop." Within 2 weeks, the screaming matches stopped. Leo still didn't love turning off the iPad, but the drama was gone because the boundaries were clear and the connection was maintained. Now, let's look at a roadmap for the next 6 weeks. In weeks 3 and 4, we focus on the 4-to-1 ratio. Carry 4 rubber bands on your left wrist. Every time you give your child a genuine compliment or positive observation, move 1 band to your right wrist. Don't go to bed until all 4 are on the right side. This forces your brain to look for the good. You'll start to see changes in your child's willingness to help around the house by the end of the month. By months 2 and 3, you are moving into mastery of consequences. You'll stop using empty threats like, "We're never going to Disneyland again," and start using immediate, logical ones. Since you didn't pick up your toys, they are going in the timeout box for the rest of the day. After 6 months, you won't just see a change in behavior, you'll see a change in the atmosphere of your home. You'll have a relationship built on trust rather than fear. I know what you're thinking, but what if my kid just laughs at me when I try to be calm? This is a common troubleshooting issue. Usually this happens because the child is testing the new system. They are used to the big reaction, mom or dad. When you stay calm, it's confusing for them. They might escalate their behavior to get that old reaction back. Don't fall for it, stay the course. Another issue is parental burnout. You cannot be a calm, empathetic guide if you are running on an empty tank. If you're in a season of life where you're working 60 hours a week in Manhattan and barely sleeping, give yourself grace. Discipline with empathy takes energy. Start small. Pick just one of these tips, maybe the 4-to-1 ratio, and focus on that for a week. For those of you ready for the advanced layer, there is a secret technique called the whisper method. When things get really heated and your child is yelling, instead of getting louder, get quieter. Lower your voice to a whisper. This forces the child to stop their own noise so they can hear what you are saying. It immediately breaks the volume war and forces both of your nervous systems to de-escalate. It's a master-level move that works wonders with teenagers especially. To recap, the old way of discipline through fear is out. The new way, the effective way, is through the G.U.I.D.E framework. Remember, Set proactive boundaries. Use the 4-to-1 positive ratio. Apply logical consequences. Listen with empathy. And above all, be consistent. You aren't just raising a child, you are raising a future adult. The way you discipline them today is the voice they will use in their own heads tomorrow. Start today. Right after you finish this podcast, I want you to go to your child and find one thing, just one small thing, they are doing right and tell them, "I love how you're sitting so quietly," or "Thanks for putting your cup in the sink." That is step 1. If you found this helpful, please comment below with the word calm, so I know you're joining the movement for more peaceful homes. I'll be responding to your questions all week. In our next episode, we're going to talk about the toddler tamer, handling tantrums in public. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep leading with love. See you next time.